Hey folks, Bamboo here. Welcome back to our Loosen Up series where we're going through all of the movements in our Loosen Up sequence at the beginning of this video series, breaking them down into more detail, covering the different body areas and ways that we can build strength and mobility in those body areas to help better prepare us for capoeira. Today we're going to be talking about the quads, the big muscles on the front of the legs. In the loosening series that we started this series with, we had one stretch in particular for the quads, which was down in this lunge position, grabbing the back ankle, and pushing the hips forward. This is one of many different ways to stretch the quads. If we're going to go with this form, I like to try to focus on keeping my shoulders over my hips and pushing my hips forward, as opposed to trying to let my shoulders rock forward, which is not actually going to cause my hips to go farther past my knee, which is what I'm trying to do to get a good stretch. So this position here is one way to do this. If you have any knee pain in the back knee from being on the floor, you can always put a towel under your knee or something, a pillow or something to cushion it a little bit. Even still, this might be a little extreme for some folks when you're first starting. Another lighter version of a quad stretch that you can do is a standing version where you can stand, take one leg, grab the foot by the ankle, and try to stretch this way. If you're going to do this stretch, a couple of important things. You want to try to keep the knee that you are stretching pointing straight down and close to the other leg rather than being out here. I'm going to try to be up and down. And if you're looking at it from the side, the idea here is we're trying to get the hip to go a little bit forward and the knee to come a little bit back to start to get a stretch from the muscles that run all the way up onto the top part of this hip joint here. And again, we want this to be in line, more or less, with our standing leg, not super far forward as much as we can. It's okay if your foot is a little further out, depending on how stiff you are. But this is another great version that you can start with if you are getting comfortable with this stretch. There's another version of this stretch that I also really like, where you can use a wall to get an assisted additional stretch that you can build up to. In this version, you're going to find some sort of padding near a wall, and you're going to start from this position where I'm going to place my back knee on the floor, place the toes, top of my toes, alongside the wall. You can decide how far away to go from the wall based on your flexibility level, and then I'm going to take my front foot forward into a lunge. From here, I'm going to try to stack my shoulders on top of my hips and see if I can push my hips back to the wall. Ultimately, the goal here eventually is to be able to get to the point where your shoulders are actually touching the wall while your knee is straight up and down. You can either hold this stretch for 30 seconds to 60 seconds, or you can do pulses where you can stay here and push as far forward as you can, and then come back and do sets of 10 or 20 of those, trying to gradually stretch out this quad muscle, Those are all part of the way that we can start to build some stretching, some flexibility in the quads, but we also need to strengthen the quads in order to make them more mobile so that they can hold weight throughout their range of motion. There are a couple of different ways to do this. Specifically, in capoeira, we use the quads a lot for almost everything, both for kicks and generating more power in our kicks, but also for protecting our knees in a lot of the low positions that we're in. And so we need to build strength and mobility in that range of motion too. Some of my favorite exercises for this are mimicking the way that we do kicks to get a nice quad extension workout. So for this, you can use a chair for balance, or you can try to do this just standing still, depending on where your balance is at. But you're going to bring one knee up, ideally to the point where the knee is parallel with the hip joint. And then from here, you're going to try to keep the knee in exactly the same spot and just extend the toes from the knee down. You can do 5 to 10 of these to start. It might be more difficult than it initially looks just to get this proper form. Remember, you're focusing on trying to keep everything from the knee up to the hip stable and just extend down. If that gets to a point where it's starting to feel a little bit easier, you can use something like an ankle weight around this leg to get a little bit of extra resistance in this exercise. So that's one thing that I like to do, 2 or 3 sets, 5 to 10 reps each. The other one that can be really helpful, particularly for helping the quads protect the knees, that I like is you're gonna need something to stand on. I would start with something that's about 3 inches tall, if you can find something like that, something in the 3 to 6 inch range. You're going to get your standing material, and then you need something that you can put under your heel so that your foot stays in an extended position with your heel above your ball of your toe. I'm going to use this for right now, but you could also stack up some ankle weights, you could stack up some books, whatever you have, or if you're in the gym, you can find something like a dumbbell or something like that. So you're going to put this on top of the blocks. You're going to stand with one leg, ball of foot on the block, and the heel up on the heel wedge. You're going to find your balance. You can do this with a wall or something when you're getting started, so you can make it a little bit easier. And then the goal here is I'm going to try to get the heel of this foot to touch the ground without dropping my hip. I want to try to keep my hips parallel, come forward, touch, and back down. I don't want to let my toes touch because then I can push off of my toes here and cheat the movement a little bit. I want only the heel to touch and come back. My hips are traveling a little bit forward as I do this, and my upper body is going with them, down and back up. I'm going to really feel this on the part of the quad right above the knee. It's going to help strengthen that muscle and give us a little bit more stability in these knee forward positions, which we do a lot in Capoeira. So those are some of my favorite exercises for quad strength and quad mobility. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope we'll see you next week.